Mohandas Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869 in western India. I was married to Kasturba Nakhanji at the age of 13. 6 years later, at the age of 19, I traveled to England to study law. 3 years later, I returned to India as a lawyer. In 1893, I traveled to South Africa to handle a law case. I was shocked by the discrimination practiced against Indians that lived there. In 1907, the Black Act was proposed. This act required all Indians over 8 to be registered and fingerprinted. I realized I must fight this new law by breaking it. Though I was arrested, others followed my example and continued to break the law, and not once did we strike a blow against the tormentors. Some may call this passive resistance, but I call it satyagraha, meaning force of love and truth. After enough protesting, the South African government repealed the law, the Black Act, and other laws that were unjust. Knowing that I had achieved my goal, I returned to India. When I returned to India, I took a tour of the country because I had been away for 20 years. I was shocked by the great poverty and the huge problem of untouchability that I saw. When I returned from my trip, I set up an ashram, a religious retreat, that welcomed untouchables. Untouchables, the lowest rank in society. In the year 1918, the roll-up bill was proposed. The roll-up bill allowed Indians to be put into jail without trial. I proposed a hardle. A hardle is a peaceful protest that involves, like a strike, that involves prayers and fasting. A large group of 20,000 people gathered in Jallian Bagh. Jallian Bagh is a square surrounding buildings. There's followed by a general and 90 soldiers. The general ordered his soldiers to fire upon the crowd. Around 400 were killed and more than 1,200 were wounded. In fear of more violence, I stopped the hardle. My next protest was the Great Salt March. During the Salt March, I traveled from my seat to make salt. Others followed my example and continued to make salt. Under pressures from undercountry, England repealed the law, and all prisoners were released. And I was allowed to go to a round table conference in England. Then the Indian Congress demanded that England quit India immediately. If they did not, another campaign of satyagraha would begin. But instead, the English arrested me and several other British leaders. Then, while I was in jail, a beloved like Kasturba died. This blow weakened me severely, but made me more determined. In 1945, when World War II ended, a new government, England elected a new government. This new government gave India its independence. But on request from a Muslim leader, it was split into two countries, Pakistan for the Muslims and India for the Hindus. I fought very hard to stop this, but I was overruled. Then, while going to a prayer meeting, I was assassinated by Hindu extremists who believed that I had been too sympathetic with the Muslims. Though my protesting cost me my life, others followed my example and continued to protest anything that was unjust, such as Martin Luther King. And I am proud of whom I am. Any questions? Any questions? John. My greatest disappointment was not having united Indias where Indians and Hindus could live together. I had always dreamed of a world where Hindus, Muslims, and untouchables could live together in peace. Thus, I was greatly disappointed when the country was split in two. I fought very hard to stop this decision, but I was overruled. But I suppose it was better than still being under England's iron fist. Michael?
In all of Indian society, what do you think was the biggest problem and why?
Without a doubt, the biggest problem in Indian society was the great problem of untouchability. An untouchable was the lowest rank in society and had to do all the worst jobs, even though they were no different from anyone else. I fought very hard to stop this because I believe that we cannot stop discrimination caused by the British until we stop discrimination caused by ourselves.